Okay, so lesson 4-3, we're going to learn about polling and margin of error. So this is one of the few lessons in Unit 4 that we're going to learn every bit of, if possible. So we're going to determine the margin of error in a given poll, explain the meaning of a margin of error in a given poll, calculate the number of poll respondents needed for a given margin of error. Well, before we do all that, we are going to need to kind of get a general idea of what a poll does, or at least look at one. So they're suggesting that we look at Pollster, and they even gave us a presidential approval survey to look at. And they asked what is the president's most current approval rating, and it was like 43.1%. And I looked up another site. This said it's back in 2018. I'm like, man, we could get something more current than that. But oddly enough, I looked at a very recent survey, and it's about the same. So it basically describes the rating of the rating describes the percentage of Americans that approve of the job currently being done by the president. So let's skip to the next page. So number 2 says, how do you think the approval rating was calculated? And make sure your answer contains both of these keywords, population. Remember, if we're talking about the presidential approval, we're talking about every single American. Do you really think they asked every single American how they felt about the president's approval? I mean, a job, how he's doing. We'll spit it out eventually. No, I don't think they did. So I think they probably surveyed a sample of the population, then use the results to draw general conclusions about the opinions of the overall population. Now, we're not going to draw the pie chart, but if you had clicked on this site, you would see that the disapproval rating was 50.9%, and the approval rating was 43.1%. So there would be 3 sectors, and of course the third one would be undecided or no opinion. Number 4 says, how would you describe the trend in approval rating over the last 6 months? How about we not do that right now? Things are a little emotional right now, and I don't want to talk about it. All right, so number 5, it says scroll down a bit and find the first link to the Gallup survey and click on it. And you'll see an approval rating and a brief description of how the poll was conducted, including the line that says margin of error, followed by something like plus or minus 3 percentage points. What do you think the term margin of error means in this context? So think about what you think that would mean. Here we're saying that his approval rating is 43.1%, and they're saying the margin of error is plus or minus 3%. Well, we'll get into that a little bit later. So we're going to skip number 6 and we're going to go on to number 7. On number 7, they said, what do you think is better to have, a small margin of error or a big one? Well, I think we would want a small margin of error, don't you think? Because we would want to be as accurate as possible. All right, so that's the end of this video, and we're going to start on the next page with, well, I guess the nuts and bolts of this particular section.